Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt uncomfortable before anything happened? Have you ever met someone and felt exhausted within minutes even though they seemed perfectly kind? Or found yourself saying, "I don't know why, but something feels off," only to discover weeks later that your first feeling had been correct all along? Many neurodivergent women spend years believing that this tendency makes them irrational. They assume that because they cannot immediately explain what they feel, the feeling itself must be unreliable. Modern culture reinforces this idea. We are taught to trust explanations, arguments, evidence, and logic. We are taught that understanding should come before feeling. Yet for many highly sensitive and neurodivergent women, life often unfolds in the opposite direction. First, there is a sensation, a pull, a tension, an unexplained knowing. Only later does the explanation arrive. And what if that isn't a weakness at all? What if your nervous system is simply processing information long before your conscious mind has had time to organize it into language? One of the most misunderstood aspects of neurodivergence is that many women are constantly absorbing far more information than they realize. Every environment contains layers of data that most people barely notice. There are facial expressions, shifts in tone, subtle changes in energy between people, patterns in behavior, inconsistencies in communication, sensory details in the environment, and countless other signals moving beneath conscious awareness. The brain is processing all of this continuously. Most of it never reaches the level of deliberate thought. Instead, it arrives as a feeling. We call it intuition. We call it a vibe. We call it a gut feeling. But often, what we are experiencing is actually unconscious pattern recognition. The body notices something before the conscious mind can explain what has been noticed. This can be particularly true for women with ADHD and high sensitivity because many have spent their entire lives monitoring their surroundings. From a young age, they learn to pay attention to reactions, emotional shifts, social expectations, and subtle signs of approval or disapproval. Some learn this because they felt different. Some learned it because they were masking. Some learned it because they were highly empathic and naturally attuned to the emotional atmosphere around them. Whatever the reason, years of paying attention create a nervous system that becomes exceptionally skilled at detecting patterns. The challenge is that pattern recognition does not usually arrive in the form of a clear explanation. It arrives as a feeling that something fits or does not fit. Something feels safe or unsafe. Something feels aligned or misaligned. And because there is no immediate logical argument attached to that feeling, many women learn to distrust it. This is where an interesting tension emerges. Many neurodivergent women repeatedly experience situations in which their first impression turns out to be accurate. They sensed that a relationship was wrong before they could explain why. They felt uncomfortable in a work environment long before the obvious problems became visible. They noticed something about a person that others could not yet see. Life keeps providing evidence that their instincts contain valuable information. Yet at the same time, they have been taught that feelings should never be trusted without immediate proof. The result is often a painful cycle of self-doubt. They feel something. They dismiss it. They seek more information. They ask everyone else for their opinion. They overanalyze. They create endless mental loops, and eventually they arrive at the very conclusion that their nervous system had already recognized from the beginning. From a Kabbalistic perspective, this dynamic can be understood through the relationship between Chochmah and Binah. Chochmah is often described as the flash of wisdom that appears before words. It is the sudden insight that emerges fully formed, even though it has not yet been explained. Binah is the process that follows. Binah takes the raw spark and gives it structure. It organizes, analyzes, categorizes, and creates understanding. In many ways, neurodivergent women often experience a very strong connection to Chochmah. They know before they know why. They perceive before they can explain. They sense the pattern before they can articulate the pattern. The difficulty is that our culture tends to value Binah far more than Chochmah. We are expected to explain ourselves immediately. We are expected to justify every decision. We are expected to provide logical certainty before acting. Yet some forms of wisdom do not arrive in that order. When Chochmah appears, it often feels like an impression that emerges from somewhere deeper than conscious thought. It may arrive as a subtle discomfort when everyone else seems enthusiastic. It may arrive as an unexpected attraction toward a path that makes no sense on paper. It may arrive as a quiet certainty that refuses to disappear even when logic tries to argue against it. The mistake many people make is believing that they must either follow the feeling blindly or reject it completely. In reality, neither approach creates balance. Chochmah and Binah were never meant to compete with one another. They were meant to work together. The insight arrives first. The structure follows. The feeling opens the door. The analysis helps determine whether the feeling is accurate. This distinction becomes especially important because not every feeling is intuition. Anxiety can create powerful sensations. Fear can create powerful sensations. Old wounds can create powerful sensations. Trauma can create powerful sensations. Learning to trust yourself does not mean believing every emotion that passes through your body. It means learning to distinguish between different kinds of signals. Fear often carries a sense of urgency. It pushes, it contracts, it demands immediate action. Genuine intuition often feels surprisingly different. Even when it warns you about something, there is frequently a calm quality underneath it, a steadiness, a quiet knowing that does not need to shout. The more regulated the nervous system becomes, the easier it becomes to recognize this difference. This may be one of the deepest reasons that nervous system regulation matters so much for neurodivergent women. Regulation is not only about reducing stress, it is also about improving perception. When the nervous system is overwhelmed, every signal feels equally important. Every thought feels urgent. Every emotion feels true. Everything becomes louder. But when the nervous system settles, clarity begins to emerge naturally. The unnecessary signals become quieter. The meaningful signals become easier to recognize. This is why so many women suddenly receive insight during a walk in nature, while traveling, while sitting quietly with a journal, or while spending time alone. The wisdom was already there. The noise simply became quiet enough for it to be heard. Perhaps this is also why so many neurodivergent women find themselves drawn toward symbolic systems such as Kabbalah, archetypal psychology, mythology, or astrology. These systems are often misunderstood as attempts to predict the future, but their deeper purpose is something very different. They provide language for experiences that already exist within us. They help bridge the gap between Chochmah and Binah. They help transform felt experience into conscious understanding. They offer structure for things that are often difficult to describe. For many women, the attraction is not really about belief. It is about recognition. Finally, encountering a framework that explains experiences they have been having for years. If there is one thing I hope you take away from this conversation, it is that feeling something before you can explain it does not make you irrational. In many cases, It simply means that your nervous system has already begun processing information that your conscious mind has not yet organized. The goal is not to abandon logic. The goal is not to replace thinking with feeling. The goal is to allow both to work together, to allow Chochmah to bring insight, to allow Binah to bring structure, to stop demanding instant explanations for experiences that require a little more time to unfold, and perhaps most importantly, to begin rebuilding trust in a part of yourself that has always been wiser than you realized. If this conversation resonated with you, subscribe to Sacred Structure. Every Sunday, we explore the intersection of neurodivergence, Kabbalah, archetypes, and nervous system wisdom to help you create more clarity, balance, and inner structure in a complex and often overwhelming world. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.